All right. Well, let's get started. Um, so today the topic is from vision to reality. And the reason for this is that a lot of times the ideas for businesses don't come from somebody saying, oh, start a business or whatever. It comes from different ways. And so one of the things I wanted to do is explore not only how we get our business ideas, but also what makes them move from being just an idea to reality. And so with me today is Tom Hannon and from what is it? Pabloski Signs?
Poblaki.
Blanky Signs, and Darlene Proctor from RE. Let's get started. Tom, do you want to say a little bit about what your business does? And
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. I'm Tom Hannon from Poblaki Sign Company. So we're a regional sign company, and we specialize in architectural design solutions for interior and exterior signage. Our ideal customers have multiple locations with a wide variety of signage needs. And typically, they're frustrated with vendors with geographical challenges, project management, and especially with timeframes. We consider ourselves a true partner for our clients from concept to completion. Some of the projects that we've done, for instance, we're doing the letters on the Prudential Center this year. We did the Akamai building, Harvard University, Boston Skate Club. So that's what Poblaki does.
Big stuff. Wow. Darlene, do you want to just say a real high level what your company does?
Sure. My name is Darlene Proctor, and the name of my company is RE, ... with the 3 ellipses. I'm a decluttering and organizing expert, and I help people make decisions about their items in their home. Not just go in and do it for them, but to actually sit with people, because people's possessions are important. They bought them for a reason. They spent money on them. So I'm able to help people and be with somebody as they do that work. And my ideal customer, it would be somebody who probably is somebody in the age of a little bit older, maybe in the mom age, to people who are downsizing. But it's a big variety. But it's people who've experienced spending money on their items and realizing that their space is changing, or that they need some help making those decisions. And I've been doing that for quite a while.
Yeah. All right, so let's start with just a mindfulness practice. This is part of us connecting to what's happening on the unconscious level or the subconscious level, and then also a brief prayer. So if you just relax and take a deep breath and just allow your muscles to relax. Notice where you're tense. That's a body scan. And just take a deep breath, and as you exhale, just allow that to dissolve and just flow down through your feet and out your hands. And identify what you would like to get out of this meeting. So this is vision to reality, and it's an opportunity to think about some of the humanistic, shall we say, components of being successful in business. It's an area we don't necessarily talk about, but it is fundamental to your ability to journey towards your vision. And thank you so much for this time to be together. We're grateful for the opportunities that have been given to us in the past and will come forth for us in the future. We ask that this be an event that is important and valuable to everyone here. Amen. All right, so the first section is about your vision. And this is generally, vision comes from a lot of different ways. And what I wanted to do is just, for me, my vision came when I was in my 20s. I even trademarked a name, which is sociosomatic dynamics, which is the foundation of what I do. And it's not until much, much later that I then began to develop this into a full-blown business. So Tom, how about you? Tell me, you've started quite a few businesses, haven't you?
I have I've sold 12 businesses altogether, and I've started probably in that 8 to 10 range, and then I acquired a bunch of others to put them into what I was doing.
Mhm,
I'm not to say how I got the vision. I usually got introduced to an idea,
mhm,
and then once I got introduced to an idea, I explored it I explored it as much as I could to see if it was something that I wanted to do that worked good with my skill set. And
mhm,
then if I did, I would put together the vision. I'd put together, the plan to make that business work.
mhm. Interesting. How about you, Darlene?
Yeah. Um, in looking back on my life, where I am now, and so when I was about 18 to 20 years old, I've always had an interest in spaces and how people operate within their space. I would be in meetings or at jobs, and I would always be looking around and wondering how things could flow more efficiently, but I didn't know really what was going on with me. I just thought, I'm in this meeting, I must be bored, or this must not be. So I did go to school for a little while for interior design, but I ended up doing some other things and became I was a research scientist, and I realized that I, I when I was a research scientist, I was asked to, I was recruited to open up a lab at Dana-Farber and start up a lab for some doctors and for some lung cancer research doctors. And when I did that, I wasn't into the research. We were publishing and we were a very thriving lab, but I really wasn't into the work. I was into operating the lab, making things work right, making sure they looked right and they felt right for the doctors. So I didn't know I had this vision for a long time. It took me, it's taken me some time to know, but for me, it's particularly working with a person. It's not about the items, it's about the relationship with the person, that somebody trusts me and somebody brings me into their home. So it's been quite a while in a journey for me to even realize it and then to step out. So to do it.
Nancy or Rich, do you want to share your story of how you got into photography or how you got into the dolls of color?
And Nancy, why don't you go first?
Sure. So, growing up, I did not have dolls who looked like me, and I think it's an important tool that every child should have, especially if you are an Afrocentric or Afro-descendant person. Most of the times we are giving dolls who do not look like us. So I felt that not having this opportunity as a child was a big issue. And that's something that I want to share to other children and I want to promote it. And also, it's also for children who are not African American as well. I think it's important for them to learn about diversity, to start playing with toys who do not look like them. So I feel that there was some kind of lack in that area and I became passionate about it. So I decided to promote dolls of color for all of these reasons, to teach African American children to love themselves and to help other children who are non-African American to start embracing that diversity. So that's pretty much how it started, basically, from my childhood, not having something that looks like me. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
That's
Mhm.
wonderful. Rich?
Yeah, hi, Marcy. First of all, I want to apologize to everyone for me being late for the meeting. Turns out I got on time, but I was adjusting my computer monitor and I pulled the plug out of the back of the computer. And of course, I've been watching the little pinwheel go around for the last 10 minutes. Fortunately, I'm not in a computer high-tech business. So deal with this once in a while. Anyway, how I got into this business goes way back into grammar school, believe it or not. My father found me, I'm a professional photographer. My father found me a job in Chicago with a professional photographer from downtown Chicago. And I started working with him long time ago. And it just, ever since I've been in a serious rut. And through the service, that's what I did as photographer. And that's what I've been doing all my life.
Yeah. What kind of photography do you do now?
Right now, most of my business is in architectural and real estate photography, mainly because that part of the industry is just taking off. It's phenomenal. So I don't think I'd have time for any other parts. I used to do wedding photography, but thank God I got out of that and made my life a lot easier.
Yeah.
And
Well,
now,
you do business photography, business portraits and portraits, right?
sure.
And,
Yeah, corporate event photography, business photography, area. I'm a licensed drone pilot, so I do a lot of drone work. That's the fun part of my job. And I'm just having a good time.
That's wonderful. So everybody has a different way and a different vision, and that's wonderful. That's your why. The second part is that it takes courage and commitment to build your business. And so, Darlene, do you want to say anything about that, or do you want to?
So for me having the not knowing what this was, this calling or this feeling when I was, every time I was somewhere in an employment situation with one employment, I kept thinking of how to make systems better, how to make this more efficient, how to make this space. So doing that, I kept thinking there was something wrong with me. So I kept thinking I'm in the wrong career again, or I only had two careers, one as working in the science lab and one as a teacher, but I still didn't know that that's what a calling was. I just knew it was something that I could organize your space or my space, or help my friends move into their homes, and I could set it up and I could work with people for hours and not get tired. And I didn't know this was a passion. So, but again, for me personally, it's been, it's not, reasonable. I don't know a lot of professional organizers. So I vacillate back and forth with myself, but I'm finally ready. I'm ready to, I'm also taking the Launch Your Mind. I'm taking the mastermind on Fridays with Marcy. I also work with Marcy. I've been working with her for the past 6 months. And when I don't want to talk about my business, and then we talk about it a little bit, I get excited again. So it's been a process for me. It's not just been a jumping into a business. It feels much more deeper than that, like a passion.
So Tom, for you have a lot of experience with the buying and selling businesses. Tell me a little bit about what it's like being a business owner and the work that you put into it, the commitment, that sort of thing. And you have you have a perspective that most of us don't have. We've only done one business, and I'd love to hear what you've learned over the years. Yeah,
It's interesting when you own a business, you don't really, until you own a business, you don't understand what it is. And it's a whole life in its own. It's a 24/7 commitment. I've read a lot of books about balance and about how to make your life balanced. And I've listened to people on podcasts and radio shows, and I've never experienced it. For me, business has been 24/7 commitment. My ex-wife used to call it my mistress because it was always there. It just never went away. And I mean, in perspective is I had companies that have had as little as 10 employees, and I've had companies with as many as 80. And when you have that much going on, you're operating in several states at the same time. It's a forever commitment that just doesn't go away. It's always grinding. It's always there. Especially, it was a lot back then when there was Nextel phones and email, but now there's with your phone, it's 24/7. You can't get away from it. So
we were talking off. What? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were.
Okay. Yeah, you were talking about reality versus imagined. Can you give us an example of where you thought it was going to be something and then it turned into something else?
Yeah, I mean, that's something I've been saying for a long time, is the real versus the imagined. And you imagine that a business is going to be one thing, but the reality is it's something totally different. When I first got into my delivery businesses, my main business was I delivered free magazines. And then I helped people publish magazines, advertising. I helped placement, retail locations. So that was my my main business. I sold that same business several times. But when I first got into that, I thought I would be selling all these distribution accounts, and then all people would be go out and deliver the magazines for me, and life would be great. And I would be up in the, just pushing the buttons, making it happen. But that's not what happened. I was cleaning out trucks. I was delivering magazines. I was there at 3 o'clock in the morning when trucks came in. I was sweeping the floor. I was operating the forklifts, and I was doing everything in between. And that's part of owning a business, is doing all the things that you don't want to do because somebody has to do them. And that's a hard part of owning a business. And especially the books. The bookkeeping was not something I liked at all.
Yeah. And so you pretty much, your priority is your business, and that's where you spend your time and attention. Can you talk a little bit about how that affects your relationships, or anything more about that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I have an ex-wife, and I think that the business was certainly a part of that. But I got remarried, and anyone who was here last week got to meet my wife, actually, Linda, and we're both very much into business. She's a corporate management consultant, and owns a business or another business beyond that. And I've owned businesses for my whole life. So you have to have somebody who understands what it's going to take to make it work. And if I understand when she's working at 1 o'clock in the morning, and she understands what it's like for me to work at 1 o'clock in the morning. And when I had young kids, I would fit all the young kids stuff in while I was running the businesses too. And it pretty much meant that that's all there was that your life was about. It was trying to manage whatever handful of relationships you could, plus the business. It was quite a bit of work to make that all work.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So proximity is vitality. All right. So if we need to be in contact with our target clients and with people that will support and help us grow. I know that being part of the Metro South Chamber for me has been really helpful in growing my business, and then all of my friends as support systems. And, so Tom, if you would just talk a little bit about how your relation, how did you fall into, you tended to be offered an opportunity or see an opportunity. So talk a little bit about how how the environment and the industry supported your businesses and all.
Yeah, like I said, I got into the distribution business, and that started at the Boston Globe. So I got it was 19, and I got cultivated into this distribution world, and I got to understand about distribution, circulation, publishing, which really helped a lot going into my business. And then I started my business, and I got, I got small accounts, and then I bought out one of my competitors, and then one of my competitors bought me, and they were a big company, and they got to teach me a lot throughout, and I got a lot of learning experiences along the way. So I was fortunate that way, and I think that when I look at the things that I haven't done well, and they would, because I wasn't educated in them. So if you're going to do a business, I think that you should be an apprentice somewhere, or get 6 months or years experience working for a company who does it, to make sure it's something that you want to do before you actually do it. Because that kind of circles back to the real versus the imagined. You're going to think it's one thing, but if you really can learn it, then at least you're going to know what you're getting yourself into, and even you might not like it. So you have to have some type of drive for what you're going to do, because to give your customers what they're going to require, you really need to have you need to have that.
Yeah, and I think you were talking a little bit about knowing the industry before you get into it.
At least the culture, right? So if you look at the companies that have done great throughout the years, they hire people to fit their culture. They're not hiring talent. They're hiring people to fit a culture. So if you are, whatever your culture, your personal culture is, you should make sure your personality works inside that industry. If it doesn't, you're going to have a really hard time. If you're an outgoing person and it's a business that you're going to be in front of your computer all day alone, answering emails, you're probably not going to enjoy it. But if you're an introvert, you love that. So, you know, take a personality test, understand yourself better than you do. And then you can find businesses that work and make sure that you're going to work inside that business.
Yeah, and there's also one of the other reasons to do a personality test is that you find out what you're not good at, and then you can hire a lot of that out. So as an entrepreneur, it doesn't mean you do everything. It means you do the things you're great at, and you get people around you to help you with the rest of it.
Yeah, there's a great podcast called Marketing World with Neil Patel on it. I don't know if anyone of you ever heard of him, but he talks about that. He actually has somebody else run his company, and he's very successful because he focuses on what he's good at. And if you, you know, if you can do that, my hat's off to you. I've tried to do that. That's why I'm working for a company in a role where I'm really good at. As opposed to trying to do all things.
Yeah. Would you put that in the chat? The name of that podcast or the?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody have some questions for anyone here?
I've got a question for Tom. Tom, when you're in the process of running a business, how do you know when it's time to grow the business or it's time to sell the business? Because I get caught up in this developing my business all the time, and I'm not thinking about selling it, but I wouldn't know when.
Right. So I'm a big proponent of Stephen Covey's "You begin with the end in mind," the 7 habits. So whenever I started a business, I was preparing it to be sold the same day. So right from the beginning, I was preparing it to be sold. And for me, the sales opportunities have come at different times. So I was prepared for it, but one time I got really injured training for an Ironman, and I had no choice but to sell the business. Another time, my dad passed away, and I got so burnt out that I needed time away. Go ahead.
And so had you already prepared like your business? Do you operate your businesses so that you can pass them on at any point? I mean, because when you know, an injury, you don't know that that's going to happen, right?
Right. So, and that's the thing that a lot of people don't prepare themselves in business for at all. Roughly about 15% of businesses sell that go for. So if you're looking at all the businesses out there and you were at a table with 10 people, 1 or 2 of those people could stand up, and those are the people that would sell their business. Everyone else wouldn't. So for me, for instance, I got hurt doing an Ironman, and I was laid up. I couldn't work. I was never going to be able to do what I was doing, and I was able to sell that company in 6 weeks.
Yeah. So tell us the actual details. So what kind of a company was that, and who did you sell it to?
Yeah, so I had a distribution business, so we distributed all the magazines and brochures on Cape Cod. And we had all these racks in supermarkets, and, you know, so if you go out into a hotel and you see, you know, brochures to do XYZ, we were the company that was doing it. I had that company for 3 years, and we were really the dominant company on Cape Cod. And then I got hurt in January. You know, and it was pretty bad. And, but the company that I was able to sell to was the company I was taking all the business from. So I ended up making a phone call once I felt good enough to make the phone call. And, we had a deal pretty much in, I would say, 2 weeks. Now it took 6 months to close, but we were able to get a deal in place very quickly. And the main part of that was we had the books. The books were perfect. The contracts were perfect. Everything was aligned. So so when they went through the due diligence, it was very easy. That part of selling the business. And the same thing when I sold my biggest company, which was 80 employees. The due diligence, they couldn't find things to push back on through that process, because we were prepared for this. We had every contract, the finances were in perfect shape, everything was real. They didn't find any of these great aha moments. So that's what made the sale work. But Rich, I didn't have any of those moments where it was like, now is the key moment to sell the company. I never had one of those, actually, to be honest.
Huh, interesting.
Well, but they often say that you want to have your prepared for your exit, because you exit not when it's convenient to you, but when it's convenient in the marketplace, or when the opportunity presents itself.
Right. And that's, when I tried to help people sell their businesses before, and what would end up happening is they were all stressed out, they were flustered, things weren't going well, and they would come in and say, I need to sell my business. And I'd say, okay, what did you do to get it ready? And the answer 9 times out of 10 was very little, if not nothing.
Yeah, I think I was talking last week, and we were talking exit strategy, and 90%, 99% of companies don't prepare for an exit. And we were in the mastermind. Darlene is in my mastermind, and we talked about vision and then exit. And by just bringing in the exit, it shifted the conversation so dramatically that the tasks that are going forward are going to be fundamentally different. And Darlene and the other person are going to save so much time and wasted effort, that effort that might be wasted. So it does. Other questions?
Well, it took courage, Marcy, last week when you said to me, what's your exit? Because this is my baby that I'm starting. So you're now talking about the ending of my baby. So it feels, it felt like, but really I was, able to say, I know because when you said it, you had, the way you phrased it with us was more like the exit strategy, but not in like the ship is going down, but kind of like, what's your vision and dream for it in the end, working backwards. And that was an easier question to answer the way you phrased it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about your business as like your kids, if you have any, right? So you have a baby that's born, like in the beginning, and you're all excited and you don't want to ever leave it, and then eventually you're ready for it to go to school, right? And then it goes to school, and then then you have all these great times, and then it goes to college, and you're very sad, and then once it goes to college, you're super excited because you got your life back. And I would view a business pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
There's going to be a point when it's just going to become very different. It's going to become a lot of work, and if you get big, and you're eventually going to get to the point where you get tired, and that you're ready to do something else.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can get emotionally attached to their business, and when you do that, you're not making the best decisions that you could for the company. And I know even for myself, there's certain things I like to do more than others. And if I'm thinking of it as a business, as something separate from me, something that is going to live on after me, it's a very different sort of point of view.
Yeah, and I was on this podcast that they interviewed me. It was called the Tropical MBA. It's not what it sounds like. It's really good. It's for business people, and the guy wrote a book called Before the Exit, and I would highly recommend that book. It's a short read, maybe 150 pages, but he talks about the things you could do before you exit, so you don't exit, or if you're going to exit, these are the things you got to look out for.
Mm-hmm. What's the name of that author?
Dan Andrews.
All right. And so I think then the next thing is, your passion. And passion is an important part of this. Because if you don't have the passion, you're not going to be sticking through the more difficult things to make this a reality. So, Darlene, do you want to talk a little bit about passion and what your passion is? Like, how are you serving others? What's your why? What is it that drives you to want to be doing this business and helping others?
So my why is coming from I can see now looking back in the trail of my life of this has always been, like I call them, my business is home management systems, how to better see something, how to better get your stuff together. And as a mom and as a homeowner, how to better operate my home. So for me, the passion was able to, I'm not interested in watching TV shows or, talking too much on the phone to friends. I want to research. I want to find out. It's a constant for me. It's more than a hobby. It's something I could do for hours, and I want to know how to make things better for people. And so for me, the word and I say it's to reorganize things. It's to, on my card, I have like reorganize, redo, and you can reconnect. You can get more time for yourself. So it's about helping people save money. How many pairs of this do you have? Take an inventory of what's in your closet. What's in that garage? What do you need help with? What system would help you better to go to the food store and to help? So all of it comes into home management systems, and it's all born out of me, out of my experiences of not having funds and raising children and living in small spaces. And so this is an absolute calling. About 10 years ago, I was sitting with my husband, who he has passed this past winter, but I was sitting with my husband and the name Ree came up, and he was a visionary himself, and he owns a company. And he said, Darlene, you have got to do this business, but you need to have a business plan. You need a business plan. And I said, but I can't yet. I just couldn't think like, no, I'm a teacher. I've got to be a teacher. And then life happened and I wasn't a teacher anymore. And he'd say, Darlene, so it's been a passion. So I've started with friends. I've been doing it for a long time with different friends, but I've started consciously working with friends and in exchange, and I've been advertising for myself on Facebook. And I've been saying, even if you don't have money, I'll barter. So that was something I thought of that was really neat, because I have a home now and I need a lot of help. So I'm willing to barter. So I have 4 people that I've worked with, and I have somebody teaching me in Excel, somebody editing for me. So that's some of the process that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bootstrapping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the next one is going to be, planning, project plan and going forward. And the one after that is bootstrapping and how to conserve cash. Tom, how about you? What's your passion in all of these businesses? You have a passion, I think.
Sure. Darlene, kudos to you, man. You're really doing it. I think that's awesome.
Oh, thank you. That's a big compliment coming from you. Thank you.
That's all. I can feel your passion.
Isn't it amazing? Yeah.
It is. It is when you know it when you see it. You can't explain. You just it's not something that can be faked. And it's interesting. When I started in my businesses, my passion was always to be good to my clients, because I felt like their success was more important than my success, because I was distributing their magazines. So if I distributed them well, they would be successful. And I tried to offer them as much value as I could to grow, so I could grow their businesses. And the passion really came from when, I had an office in Woburn, and something went wrong in Sturbridge, and I would drive out to Sturbridge to fix it. And I didn't care if it was 7 o'clock at night or midnight or, whenever I was going. And it took that type of passion to really make it work. And if you don't have that, you're probably in the wrong place. That's, because that passion is the key thing that's going to make you successful. I mean, you can have all the other things out there, but if you're not passionate about what you do and you don't love it and you don't want to be successful, I don't know anybody who's been successful who doesn't have that internal drive to make to whatever it is you want to be really good at it.
Yeah, and you said something, Tom, there is that oftentimes you have to have enough passion to make the commitment. In a lot of cases, entrepreneurs start out and they have a lot of resistance, fears about what happens if I commit myself fully to this, or what will people think, or I'm not sure I can do it. I don't know how to run a business, all those sorts of things. And without the passion and the commitment to push through that and say, yes, I can do it. It's hard to kind of, build that. And I think, you were talking about that. It's just, you may not have known how to solve those problems, but you figured it out, right?
Well, right. You kind of, So I started, the second time around, I started my company. So I was probably doing about, let's say, probably like $500,000, right? And I was making a decent living, and I was working kind of part-time at it. And then I thought this was right when things were going bad, financially. We were in a recession and things were going bad. And so I started making a lot of sales calls saying, all right, I got to replace these clients. And I ended up with a company called East West Mortgage. I don't know if anyone's heard of them.
Yeah.
The commercials, they there when you need us. Go,
Yeah.
yeah. So then we ended up launching isoldmyhouse.com together. And all of a sudden I went from working like 25, 30 hours a week, a decent part, kind of working my way through life, to I was working 90 hours a week. And it was great because I grew the company to, a good sized company. But it was, oh my God, if you think about how much drive it took to make that all happen, and they were on you every day, every hour of every day, to push things forward. It was not a lax environment. And it takes a lot to make that, to want to make that work. Because you would sink or swim at that point.
Nancy, do you want to talk? Oh, go ahead.
I just asked Tom a question.
Sure. Yeah, please.
Tom, how do you decide, like, the people, when you have to delegate, when the people are when do you decide, or who do you pick in for your inner circle? Like at that point when things went so up to 90 hours a week.
Yeah, not an area I was very good at, to be honest with you. So I ended up with the company with myself, and then I had one person that I had 10 managers underneath them. And I couldn't understand why things weren't going well. So I read this book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which was a fantastic book. And it basically said that you need to trust people. And if you don't trust them, they don't fit in your organization. So from that point forward, I just viewed trust. If I could trust somebody, then I would move them into a position. So it's hard hiring people. I would say I could get business all day long, but hiring people to actually do the work, I found to be the most difficult thing to do as an entrepreneur.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Nancy, do you want to talk a little bit about